Banksy on this one.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for this?
Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Treasure Titilope Sabs. I'm a fashion designer based in the UK. Today I want to show you how to draft a trousers pattern for a female trousers pattern. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and also make sure you put on the notification bell so that anytime I post a new video you will be alerted. I'm going to be posting several videos. Please just do that so that you will receive alerts for any new video that I post. Thank you so much for connecting with me on YouTube, and let's get started. To get started, these are the measurements that you will need to take. You need your trousers length measurement, that is from your waist or wherever you want your trouser to sit on your waist to your ankle, or wherever you want the length of your trouser to be. For the basic block trousers, you need to take a measurement to your ankle, that's your waist to ankle, or an inch below the ankle measurement. And I've added 2 inches of hem, which you're going to flip in to be the hem of the trouser. You need your hip length measurement, that is from your waist to your hip, the fullest part of your hip. You need your crotch length measurement. Some people call it the body rise measurement, and the way to take this is to sit down on a flat surface, and then with a ruler take the measurement of where your bum sits on the chair up to your waist. Mine is 11 inches. You need your knee length measurement, and you need your waist circumference. Mine is 34 inches. We divide that by 4 because we are drafting in quarters, and then we had 1 inch of dot to the waist, so mine gives me 9.5 inches. We need the same thing for the hip circumference. 40 inches is my hip circumference. We divide that by 4 because we are drafting in quarters, and then I'm going to add 1 inch to the hip circumference, and that gives me 11 inches. My knee circumference is 16 inches. Divided by 2 will give me 8 inches, which you're going to be drafting on each of the leg. And then we need the instep. Instep is the ankle hole, where you, of course, you take out your leg or you wear the trouser. Yeah. My instep is 12 inches, and I'll divide that by 2, which gives me 6 inches, and we need that for each of the trouser leg. Now I also need my crotch width. The way we calculate, or the way I calculate the crotch width, is the length of my hip circumference, which I've divided up here, which gives me 11 inches. Yeah. Now a quarter of that, you add that to your hip circumference, which will give you your crotch width. For instance, my hip circumference length for the drafting of this pattern is 11 inches, as I've said earlier. Now a quarter of 11 is 2.75. So I'll add that to 11, which gives me 13.75, which is 13.75 of an inch. So that is what I'm going to be using for the crotch width. And this is for the front width. For the back width, we're going to be adding some extra inches to that. And of course, what you need to draft this pattern is your pattern paper. You can use any paper that you like, as long as it's long and wide enough for the purpose of the drafting, or you can actually do it straight on your fabric, but remembering to add all the seam allowances when you're drafting on fabric. But I like to do my paper drafting and then lay it on the fabric later. I've got the hip curve here. If you have it, that would be great. It's useful to be able to shape the hip as well as the leg of the trouser. I've got a long ruler, 40 inches long ruler, like there's a meter long ruler, and I've also got a 24-inch ruler, and I've got an L square here. It helps me to be able to square up the line. Of course, this is optional, you don't necessarily need it. You can just mark it out and then draw with straight ruler. So let's get started. The first thing I've done is to fold my paper into two because I'm going to be drafting two pieces of my front pattern. The reason why I need to draft two pieces of my front pattern is one would be for my normal front pattern for the trouser, and the other one will be used as a template for the back pattern because I'm going to be doing some slashing and spreading. All right, so that's why I folded this in two so that I can do two pieces of my front pattern. So the first thing I'm going to do is to lay the foundation for my trouser, and that is on the waist. I'm going to mark out 1 inch on the waistline here on the top of the paper as a foundation for my waistline. So 1 inch up there, 1 inch, and then I will roll a line across. So on this line is where all my drafting will start from, vertically. So the next thing I'm going to do is to measure the length of my trouser and the hem allowance. The length of my trouser is 37 inches, 2 inches extra for my hem. I'll take that across, so 37 inches and 2 inches extra for my cuff, and I'll rule a line there to connect. As you can see, the paper exactly is 39 inches. So, but I've ruled a line there just to give us an indication of where the length will be. So the next thing I'm going to do is to measure out my hip length. My hip length is 9 inches. So from the waistline here, I'll measure 9 inches, and I'll take that across and square a line across there for my hip line. And the next is my crotch length. My crotch length is 11 inches. Again, from the waist, I measure at 11 inches. Take that across and square out. So just to label it, this is my waistline. This is my waistline. This is my hip line. This is my crotch length or crotch depth line. All right. This is going to be our outer seam, and this will be the inner seam. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is to measure the width of my hip on the hip line. Now, my hip circumference is 40 inches divided by 4 plus 1. So that's going to give me 11 inches. Now, from my hip, from the outer seam on my hip line, I will measure as 11 inches. So that is 11 inches there. And then I'll rule a line from that point up to connect to the upper line, which is our waist line. So I'll just square that across to the top, or just to make sure that you have a straight line, you can measure 11 inches on the waistline as well. So I'll do that, 11 inches, and then draw a straight line across. So this is my hip line or my hip width measurement, which is 1/4 of my hip circumference plus 1. And then the next one is to find the crotch width. Like I explained earlier, the crotch width is my hip width, which is 11 inches, plus 1/4 of my hip width. Now, so the calculation of that will be my hip width is 11 inches, which I've marked across. 1/4 of my hip width is 2.75, so I'm going to add that to 11, which will give me 13 3/4 of an inch. So again, from the outer seam, I'll draw a straight line up across there for 13 3/4. So that is 13 3/4. So the next thing you want to do is to curve that out from the crotch width point to the hip line point. To do that, you can actually use a French curve if you've got it. So you just need a curve. Alright, so something similar to that, just making sure that you can actually hand curve it, making sure that it connects from your crotch width all the way to your hip width line. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is to work on our waist. My waist circumference is 34 inches. I divide that by 4 and I'm going to add 1 inch allowance for dart. So that will give me a total of 9.5. That's 9.5 inches. So on the inseam, you will start marking from the inseam all the way towards your outer seam to the side. You measure out 9.5 inches, which takes me up to that point. So what I'm going to do is to curve that out from the waist to join the hip to form our side hip curve. So I'll use the hip curve here to do that. So what I need you to do is just to connect that to my hip side, which is giving me a shape right there. And on the waistline here on the side, you want to raise it up by ½ inch just to give it some shape for your waist. So raise that up by ½ inch and connect that to your waistline. So this is going to be the new waistline. The next thing we want to do is to create our dart. Now measure from your inseam and find half of that. Find the midpoint. That will be where our dart is going to be. And again, remember that I added 1 inch for dart, so I'm going to divide that by 2. So ½ inch on both sides of the dart, ½ inch on both sides. So that will be my dart allowance. And then what I need for the length of my dart in the front is 10 centimeter, which is about 4 inches in the front. So I'm going to measure out 4 inches for my dart, and then connect both lines to the dart to create our dart for the waist. So this is going to be our dart for the waist. Now, because I have taken this up by ½ inch on the side, I need to reduce a bit from the inseam so that the waist is not too wide. So I'm just going to take away 1/4 inch from the inseam, just 1/4 inch, and redraw my line to connect to the hip line, just 1/4 inch right there. And the reason for that is because I've raised ½ inch up here, so that would have added to my waist. So I just need to take that 1/4 out and reconnect that line to my hip line. So that is our waist and the crotch done. Next thing we want to do is to create our leg shape. To create the leg shape, from the hip line here, you want to draw a straight line straight to the hem. So I'm going to do that with my long ruler. Then find the midpoint on the crotch line. we've got 11 there. Find the midpoint and create another line all the way to the M. This will be the foundation for drafting our leg shape. So just draw a line from the crotch line on the middle point all the way to the hem. Now the next thing you want to do is to find your knee measurement. My knee measurement is, knee length measurement is 22 inches. You can either measure that from your waist to your knee length and mark on that point, or find a middle point from your crotch line to your M. The measurement of my crotch line to my M here is 26, so half of that is going to be 13. And then rule a straight line across for the knee circumference. The next thing we want to do is, because I want my trouser leg to be shaped, to be fitted, that's why I've measured my knee circumference, which is 16 inches. Half of that will give me 8 inches. Now what I need to do is to divide the 8 inches between these two lines. And the way it's done is, on this inseam, you take out half an inch from that half and you add half an inch on the outer seam. What that means is I need 8 inches divided on these two lines. Half of 8 inches is 4, but on my inner seam I'm going to deduct half an inch from 4, and then on my outer seam I will add half an inch to 4. So if you measure that, it's still going to turn out to be 8 inches. So half an inch taken from 4 will give me 3.5 inches. So 3.5 inches is what I need for my inseam knee circumference. And I'm going to add half an inch to 4, which is going to give me 4.5 inches, and that's what I need for my outer seam. If you measure up both, it still gives you 8 inches that we need for our knee circumference. I'm going to repeat the same thing for my leg. For my leg, my instep circumference as well. My instep circumference is 12 inches. Half of that is 6 inches. Now I'll divide the half of that, which is 6 inches, across both sides of the instep on the midline. Half of 6 inches gives us 3. If I take away half an inch from the inseam, it gives me 2.5 inches. And then on the outer side seam, it gives me 3.5 inches. So what I'm going to do next is to connect those lines to the crotch width all the way to my knee and all the way to the M. Again, on the side as well, on the outer seam, I'll do the same thing, connecting from that line all the way to my knee and all the way to the M. Making sure my hip cuff starts from the waist, and then draw a line, a curve from my crotch line to connect to the knee, like so, and then a straight ruler to connect from the knee to my leg opening. All right, like so. And I'll take that all the way to the M as well. The same thing I'll do for the inseam. Alright, and then a straight ruler to the M. And then all the way to the M. And there you have the front pattern. Now I'm going to cut it out. I'll cut the top part first, just one top part first, which is the main pattern for the front. I want to repeat my draft on the paper below so we can use that as a template for the back. So I'm just going to trace around it and just trace around that. This is the template for the front. Now I have cut a fresh paper. This is going to be the paper for our back pattern. Now the template that I've got here, I'm going to lay it on that fresh paper, making sure I have enough room here on the top. I'll pin that template down on the fresh paper to be able to create our back pattern. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to find the midpoint between the waist and my hip line on the inseam. So that is 9 inches. Half of that will be 4.5 inches. So I will mark that, and what I want to do is to slash that and spread it. So I'll just rule a line there, rule a straight line all the way to the side of the front pattern and cut that, not all the way to the end, leaving a tiny bit on the side so that you're able to slash it. So I'm just going to turn the paper around for you to see. Cut that. Very close to the edge, and then spread. The amount you spread is dependent on how large your bum is, because as you know, our back is bigger than the front. For me, I'm just going to slash by 2 inches, so I'm spreading by just 2 inches, yeah, and I'll pin it down. You can sellotape it if you want. You can just sellotape that bit down if you want. So as you can see, that place becomes longer at the crotch, at the inseam crotch line. All right. Draft out the remaining part of the back pattern. Draw a straight line. There. And then trace the rest of the pattern. On the crotch width here, you're going to extend that by 1 inch and bring it up by 1/4 of an inch. Extend that by 1 inch and bring it down 1/4 of an inch. And then trace the remaining part of the pattern out. Right, so this is what we are going to be cutting out up the way from that point. Then trace the remaining part of the pattern. This is our hip line, crotch line, knee line on both sides, the length of the trouser and the hem, and then trace it all out. Remove the pin and then take off the template and then connect all the vertical lines. Connect all the vertical lines. This is the hip line. This is the crotch line. This is the knee line. Okay, so for the dot at the back, it's exactly going to be the same thing. This is we found the middle point for that measurement, for that line. So we're going to connect it, but the dot at the back is usually 1 inch longer than the front. For the front, we measured out 4 inches. For this one, we're going to measure out 5 inches from the waist. So 5 inches all the way down for the dot. And then you connect by ½ an inch on both sides. And that will be our dot for the back. Remember that we've extended this bit by 1 inch, so that new line, you're going to connect it to the knee length using our hip curve. And then we connect all the lines and then round that up. So connect it to the knee. And take it all the way to the hem of the trouser using a straight ruler. Hem using a straight ruler. There we have the back pattern. Remember, I have not added any seam allowance whatsoever to this pattern. Please, once you place it on your fabric, make sure you add your seam allowances. There is no seam allowances in what I've just drafted. Make sure you add your seam allowances when you lay it out on your fabric. Seam allowances will be ½ an inch all round. Or 1/5 of an eighth all round. So we have our back pattern and we have our front pattern. We have our front pattern. As you can see from the draft, the back pattern is longer at the crotch depth than the front, and that is because it gives room for the bum at the back, because our back is usually larger than the front. So when we join it up, we are going to be joining from the crotch all the way down to the leg of the trouser, and we join the same on the side as well, making sure that it aligns where the notches are, and then all the way to the leg of the fabric, all the way to the waist. We add our dots. We had our dart for the both front and back. Now I'm going to lay it on my fabric to cut out. This is the fabric I'm using for my trouser. There are some large prints on this fabric, and I want them to be centered. So what you're going to do is you fold your fabric into two, because we are going to be cutting 2 pieces of each of the pattern. Remember that I'm going to be adding my seam allowances, because I didn't add any seam allowance to the pattern. So I've given enough room all the way around to add my seam allowances, and I'm going to be adding 1 inch of seam allowances to the side, and then 1/5 of an 8 seam allowance to the crotch area, and 1 inch seam allowance as well to the inseam, all the way to the leg. The next thing I'll do is to notch it on the areas that I need to align, on the crotch line, on the knee line, inseam, the length, then my dot position on the side, seam allowance side. Alright, so that is the back done, and there we have it. That is the front, and that is the back. Okay, that's the pattern cutting done. Now we'll go to the sewing machine now to sew it all up.